Hello and welcome to my craft room. I'm just going to do a bit of an unplanned video this afternoon because this is something I started during our monthly live stream. Last night we do a monthly, we call it the Arty Farty Party. It's a Saturday night here in the UK. We have a couple of hours live streaming from my craft room, doing a bit of arts and crafts and catching up on the chat and stuff. Anyway, so last night I was having a go at a technique that somebody shared in our Facebook group, a really easy way of applying images cut from napkins. And then later on there was another image shared, a different way of using napkins to add images to fabric that you can then stitch into. So I'm going to try both those ways out today. I tried the first method last night and I was absolutely thrilled to bits with how well it worked. And what I did first was create some brightly coloured fabric to apply the images to. So here's some of the fabric that I made just using a scrap of curtain lining. And then there was this one which had a very different look, and you can see I've already applied a couple of the napkin images too. So I'm going to have a bit more of a play with this afternoon before I put all of this away, and I just thought I might as well put the camera on and film it in case anyone else is interested. So let me take you to the desk. So yeah, this was the one, this end was all using India inks, Bombay India inks, in all different colours. I got the fabric really wet. It was a bit strange because the fabric had a finish on it. I should have washed the fabric first, and then I picked it all up to sop up what was underneath, and the whole lot ran together. So I'd got some really interesting effects going on here, but because I was live and I had to clear the desk and everything, I kind of lost some of those effects in if I'd have been doing it by myself, I'd have let them just sit there and settle and dry by themselves. But I still love the effect, and it is just meant as a background to do my napkin kind of applique. This end I used these inktense blocks. I only have 6 colours in these, and this one was a bit dull for what I wanted. But yeah, I love these. If you want to see someone doing a lot of different colouring different materials with inktense blocks, I would highly recommend going and watching my friend Christine over on Create and Craft with Christine. I'll put a link to her in the description box if you haven't found her already. Absolutely jam-packed with inspiration, her channel. I thoroughly recommend it. And she's been recently using inktense blocks to colour vintage linens and lace and doilies and things, and they look absolutely incredible. So this is what I did with the inktense blocks. I'm going to do a little bit of this afternoon. They have definitely a softer feel for stitching into than the acrylic, than the India inks, which leave it a little bit stiffer, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. I can still stitch into it. This will be a little easier to stitch into. So I think I'm going to do more of the inktense blocks. But really, you could experiment with any colourful media that you have for colouring fabric, especially when it's something like this for a slow stitching project that isn't going to be going through the washing machine and stuff. You know, it doesn't need to be colour fast really. The inktense though, they set permanent once you've thoroughly wetted them. They're permanent, and I mean I can prove that hopefully I can prove it as long as all of the pigment has been, you can see there is maybe a tiny trace of that coming up on my finger. As long as all the pigment has been thoroughly wetted, it will be permanent. I would say maybe if you want to be extra sure, use a hot iron on it to help to set it, but you know, not really necessary. I even quite like that effect on the back there as well. Okay, so these are the napkin images that I applied last night. It's just to show you what we're going to be doing. That one came from one of these. That one came from one of these. I thought I might make some hearts with some of this. These I've put them in the wrong place to be able to cut heart from that really, so I might just cut this into a little patch that would go on a slow stitch piece, or make a card or something. This I might just do a circular patch out of it. But I want to do some this afternoon that I can turn into hearts. I've also got these little cocktail size napkins with butterflies on. I think those colours would look really pretty against some of this green. So I'm going to do some of that, but I thought I'll just do a bit of the colouring first with you just to show you what I did. So this method that I tried yesterday uses clingfilm, which is not something I usually keep in. I don't believe in clingfilm. I think it's not environmentally friendly. But happen to have this super giant roll. See how much of it there is, it's really heavy. I've had it for years, and I got it as an unexpected bonus when I ordered a whole load of boxes when I was moving house one time, years ago. And I've been slowly using this up ever since. It's slightly more robust than the normal household kind of cling wrap, and I suspect the flimsier kind of cling film might even work a bit better for this technique, and less of a kind of a shadow around it, because this is quite thick, and probably be quicker to apply as well. The other thing that you need, so as it doesn't stick to your iron, you need a hot iron, and you need some baking parchment or greaseproof paper or something to stop it sticking. Parchment paper, you know, that kind of thing. The other method that I haven't tried yet, was also shared in the Facebook group, was using just a glue stick to apply the napkin straight onto fabric. So I might try that as well this afternoon if I've got time. Let's colour a piece of fabric, and I'll put that to one side, and then I'll do some of the napkin kind of applique on one of the pieces I've already got ready, and do a little bit of stitching. So this is a piece that I used to mop up some of the mess I made yesterday. This is a kind of a linen fabric. I love it, love the texture of it, and that's what I used for this one. I used the same colours of inks and the same technique on this fabric, and see how different it came out. So it's like experiment with what you've got, and see, it's, you know, be prepared for whatever happens. It does help definitely to get the fabric wet before you start. Let's put that out of the way. Perhaps I'll do a little bit with the inks up here as well, just so I can show you, and then some of the Inktense down here. So both this India ink and the Inktense, I think, should be water fast now. They won't react to all of this wetness now. If I go like that, nothing should come up now. I say I'm not intending for any of this to be going through the washing machine. I might be less confident of that, but this method was really easy. I might drop a little bit of water on there first, just to make sure it's really nice and wet. And I just dropped colour in. I kind of made sure that the colours I put next to each other weren't going to muddy each other up, so I put colours next to each other that would be next to each other on a colour wheel, otherwise everything can get a bit muddy. So I would put yellow next to either this green or this blue, but I wouldn't put it next to the purple, for instance. And I would put orange next to this yellow, but I wouldn't want to put it next to the blue, because then they would go muddy. So if I put more of the yellow there, and then drip some of the orange into it, but keep it away from the green and the blue, and then the pink, I don't want that to go near the green. So yeah, with the pink, I don't want it to go next to the green, but it would mix nicely with either yellow or that blue, I think. So or the orange. So let's just drop a little bit there. Ooh. It's like the end of the world if you get a little muddy patch. It really is not going to be. I might end up going towards the green anyway there. The purple, I don't want to put that really near next to the green or the blue. I don't want them to mix together. Oh no, it'd be fine with the blue, not with the yellow or the green. So yeah. So I just did that. If you get, like with that fabric that had a bit more of a finish on, you could pick it up and it would drip down, and that's quite an interesting effect. But that doesn't happen with this fabric. It's soaking in nicely with this one. So it just depends on what you've got. Just play around with what you've got and see what happens. This is going to have images applied on it, and then it's going to have stitching on it as well. So it's just a background. It's just a part of the process. What should we do now? I haven't got any of this. Let's put some of this blue in. Oh, and some of that could go up there as well. And you can see if I put some water down first, it spreads out more nicely. I think I might put some pink. I need to put something through here that's going to go with everything. I think the only one that will go with everything is the pink, so let's go in with some more pink. I don't want the pink right next to that green though. Oh, it's next to green there. Oh well, hey ho. Never mind. I'm sure it'll be fine. Let's drop something right in the middle there. Oh, loving that. Down here. I'll bring this bit down to here and then I'll do Inktense for the rest of it. So you can see not much going through there with this fabric either. With the other one, it all still went poof, straight through. They behave very differently. So you've just got to go with the flow, literally. See what happens. Don't panic and just enjoy the spontaneity of it. Whatever comes out of this, it's just the first step in a whole process. So I think maybe some blue down here would be. I'm going to get it a bit more wet first. Oh, it doesn't want to come out at all. There's some interesting shapes to stitch into there. And maybe just the last little bit of pink there to finish up that little area. Try out some Inktense sticks on the other end. So I've got an enormous set of Inktense pencils, which I find extremely useful. I love them. I've used them a lot to colour on fabrics and things over the years. I just think they're so versatile. And I love the way they can cross over into my stitching as well as my sort of more arty things. But I haven't got a huge range of Inktense blocks, and seeing some of the stuff Christine is doing with them, I'm trying out the few I did yesterday. I'm starting to think I might need to invest in some Inktense blocks at some time, or at least put them on my Christmas list. So these are the colours I've got. So I've got some of this stranded, just plain white stranded cotton, and I'm going to try doing some variegated thread to go with this glorious fabric. When I do some stitching in a minute, obviously the thread won't be dry by then. I've got some of these. The set of these I've had for a little while. A 12 weight sulky thread, which is in very similar colours. So I'm gonna use that to do some stitching in a bit. I haven't been very tidy with this at all. I've just left them inside the spongy case that they come in because, you know, it's fine. I've got just a reasonably stiff, not very stiff, but reasonably stiff paintbrush. It needs to have a little bit of body to it so you can work up some paint. And I'm just going to, let's get it a bit wet first again. Spray these as well to get them going. Let's do that. And now I'm just going to apply the pigment, blend it into, it's blending into that India ink really nicely as well. And they will blend into each other. But once they're water activated and then dried, they're not going to move. You won't be able to move them again. So like with watercolour paints or pencils, it will reactivate when it's dry. It will still reactivate with water. These won't. They won't move once you've dried them. So I'm doing exactly the same thing as I did before, in that I'm putting colours next to each other which won't kind of muddy up with each other. So the pink and the yellow can go next to each other, because if they mix they'll just make a nice orange. The pink and the purple can go next to each other because they'll just make a deeper shade of pink or a lighter shade of purple if they mix. But if I mix the purple with the yellow, because they're opposite on the colour wheel, that could go a bit muddy. It might not. Sometimes you get nice effects, and sometimes you want a bit of neutral, and muddy isn't always a bad thing, but I just want really bright, vibrant colours for this. I might also make this very kind of mixed media by as well as stitching into it, I might go in with some paint pens, acrylic markers, and add some little details that way as well. I feel like I want some of this lovely vibrant blue now. And another big difference between Inktense and watercolours is that they don't fade and go all pale when they dry. They retain their vibrant colour. Not so much with these blocks, but with the pencils, they look quite dull when you first put them on, and they really wake up when you wet them, and they retain that vibrancy. But keeping this, again, keeping the green away from the pink, because they would be opposite each other, and the colour will also in danger of going muddy if they mix, but the green will mix nicely with the blue or the yellow. So I'm just really going to keep going like this and just make this lovely big colourful patchy fabric. You can see not much going on underneath at all with this fabric, but if you did have a kind of fabric that was letting it go straight through like this one did, I would say have a spare piece of fabric handy, or some paper that you can use in your art journal. You can use as collage paper or whatever, just something to sop it up with that you can use rather than waste all that lovely pigment. With this fabric, I don't think there's going to be much wasted. I'm going to keep doing this and until I've got all of this fabric covered, and then I'll be back and we'll go on to some of the stuff that's already dry and have a go at that image transfer. Well, it's not really an image transfer, but you know what I mean. There we go. I finished covering that with paint. It's kind of come through quite patchily on the other side. That's not really interesting that it comes through a lot with the ink, but not with the Inktense. So yeah, it's going to be different. It's going to be different depending on what supplies you're using, what fabric you're using. Just as I say, roll with whatever happens. You will get interesting colour hands as well. So now I'm just going to soak this thread as well. In fact, I might as well drop it straight in that water, and then I'm going to drop some colour onto this as well to create a variegated thread. Just soaking it in water first just helps it to accept the colour more readily. Again, I'm going to be careful to just put colours next to each other which won't fight with each other. So the pink's going next to the purple. I'll put blue on the other side. Just making sure I work it right in so that all the strands are getting some. Let's have a bit of this yellow next. And that'll go kind of orangey in between. Let's have a bit of green. So even with these few Inktense blocks, there's going to be quite a bit I can do with them. It seems to have gone through quite nicely. And it doesn't leave the thread feeling all stiff and horrible or anything to stitch with. Well, I'm going to go blue again from the green, and then into some purple. And then I will drape these probably over the clothes horse in my conservatory to dry. It's a lovely sunny afternoon. It's a bit blowy, otherwise I'd put them outside on the line, but it's a bit too blowy, I think. So that'll be a really pretty variegated thread, which will go perfectly with this when it's all done. So I need to now just have a quick clean up, put these aside to dry, and then I'll be back to do some of the image transfer. Right, I've had a clean up. I've got my iron plugged in. I've got my little crafting iron ready here. I'm going to have a go with these napkins this time. I think all of those colours and the colours of my threads and the butterflies all go nicely together, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I'm going to try both those methods, the one I did with the cling film and the iron last night, and the one that B shared. So I looked it up on the Facebook group. It was Lorraine Shergold that shared this method. She shared a link to someone who was showing how to do this method, and B shared a link to someone who was just using glue stick to apply napkin to fabric. So I'm going to try both. I've got a glue stick here, hopefully there's enough Pritt stick. Do the cling film one first because I've already tried that. floral ones as well on here. So let's cut out one of these gorgeous butterflies. Which one? I'll just rough cut it first. Might as well cut a few out at the same time, I suppose. And we're only going to want the top layer, the napkin, but it's easier to cut it when you've got all the layers. I might even with this just leave those antennae out and put them in afterwards with my markers because they're a bit fiddly. So I'll just cut out just the butterfly shape. So I'll stop filming now and cut a few of these out, and then we'll try them out. We'll try both methods and see how we go. Well, I've got a lot of butterflies cut out now and some flowers. I've sort of started placing them where I might stick them. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm not creating a piece of fabric here so much as I'm wanting to cut out heart shapes or whatever, so I'm just thinking about where I'm placing these. I could definitely mix them together, you know, I could create little mini collages. Quite like the look of the butterfly or flowers with the skull. I liked the way that these flowers very much picked up the colours that are in my background. So there's the yellow, the pink, the purples. Yeah, so I'm going to arrange them like that, and those probably will be cut into, I think, in the end. But and then these I might place more sort of spaced out so that I can cut random to make little heart shapes around the butterflies. I think that could be really good. I had a watch of that second video that B shared, and the only thing that worries me about the Pritt stick is obviously because napkin paper is quite fragile. If I try applying the Pritt stick to it, it's just going to tear up the napkin. What the lady in the video does is just cover the whole surface with the area with a good layer of the Pritt stick, then put this on and let it dry. I'm just worried that because I want to do a lot of stitching into it, that could be difficult. I'm going to try just one piece just to see how it works out, and then I'll know for the future. So let's do that with this one. So with the napkins, you need to make sure you've only got that top layer, and I sometimes get a little bit of glue stick on my finger and thumb just to make them slightly sticky, and that helps to separate out the layers like that. And sometimes you'll find that there is one more layer than you thought it was, like I almost missed a layer there. Usually they're 3 layers, sometimes it'll only be 2. And that's very, very thin now, so that will dissolve almost to, that will just kind of merge into the background. So let's put that one. I'd be tempted to put it there and make that into a. Maybe if I put it there, I could make a large heart that way out of it. Let's stick with the plan. So I'm going to put quite a bit of glue on here. Don't think I'm going to like this method so much for what I'm doing now, but I'm just interested to see how well it sticks. The thing is, you have to put quite a lot of the glue, and I'm just worried that because I want to stitch into this, that's going to be a bit of an issue, but it might be fine. So I'm just going to very gently burnish this down. She did suggest that it's a good idea with napkins being so fragile to burnish them from the other side, because then you're not going to damage the napkin. It seems to be sticking really well. Like she said, it's quite surprising. I'm just worried about this glue I've now got left over, but I think she used water as well, and maybe she used water to get rid of the excess glue. I'm just going to catch these pieces, these bits that I've missed, very gently add some glue onto that. This stuff is so fragile, it's why it's so nice to do image transfers with napkin, because it's so thin that it kind of just blends away, and it's as if it's printed onto the fabric or paper, whatever you're applying it to. Maybe if I just just wondering I can rub away the excess glue. No, it's not working. So I might have to just let it dry and see what happens. Oops, I've torn a bit of it away there now. That's alright, we'll pretend we did that on purpose. Bit of shabby chic. Let's see what that looks like when it's all dried up. That's enough experimenting with that one. I'm just curious. For the rest of them I'll go back to doing this technique that I did yesterday. Quite like the look of that one against that deep green there. That's quite nice. If I do it there, I've probably got room to cut a heart shape out. So you can get that first layer quite easily, but this next bit is quite hard to get. And sometimes you think, oh right, that's it, but it's not. If I go like this, I'm sure there's another layer there. I just can't quite. There it goes. There it goes. My sticky fingers help to just peel up that last layer. There we go. So now, to do this technique, let's put my other butterflies out the way for a minute. I wonder if I need to go and watch that video again. If there was another part of this, maybe this would just dry clear and it would be fine. Certainly stuck well. It's just that surplus glue that I'm worried about, and it might be that because she was doing it on a pale colour fabric and then inking over, that it would just ink over that glue and it wouldn't even show. She was going for quite a distressed look. I think possibly for what I'm trying to do now, this technique isn't going to be ideal, but I'm certainly storing it away in my mind for future use, because that has I can't feel the edge of where that starts. Anyway, so let's apply this. Here's my bit of cling film. As I say, this is a thicker kind of cling film than what you'd usually use in the kitchen. But I think what you would usually use in the kitchen, if anything, would be better. This is almost a little bit too thick. It's just what I have, because I don't believe in buying cling film usually. Right, so I'm just going to fold that over. Oops, I've got an extra bit there. There we go. Just folded that over so that the little piece of napkin is sandwiched between. Got cling film either side and it's sandwiched between. Smooth that out so it clings to itself. Don't want any huge wrinkles across it. Now I'm going to, this is what I forgot to do one of the times during the live last night. And I'm just going to cut it round with a small, it's probably about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of a centimetre, something like that, around here. Just like if you were using a laminating pouch and cutting around it, you would have to leave a little bit of margin, otherwise there's nothing to, it needs to be able to stick to itself. There needs to be enough of a margin for it to stick to itself, or it's not going to hold whatever's inside. So there we go. I've just got that piece cut out with, if I tilt it like that, you can see I've just left a bit of a margin around it. Now I'm going to pop it down where I want it to go, and absolutely crucial now before you ruin your iron is to put a piece of baking parchment down on top of it. Now I'm just going to iron over it with quite a hot iron, set for, quite a high heat for the cotton fabric. Have a little peek, and it's still sticking to the baking parchment rather than the fabric, so let's keep going. So I think the thinner, more normal kind of cling film will probably be better, because this part of the process will be quicker and there'll be less, a thinner coating of the plastic. Let's just have a little peel up. I think we're probably just about there. I'm going to do a little bit more on the safe side. If you peel it up too soon, it'll just be stuck to the baking parchment and come up with it. So you just keep going a little bit longer, all the way through, and fuses itself to the fabric. If I peel it up now, we should be able to, there we go. It's a little bit there, not quite stuck. I'm going to go back. Brilliant, I'm so chuffed with that. So you can see, especially in this weather, the way the camera's catching the light, you can see where that plastic coating for the cling film is, but it's completely flexible. You can stitch through it. This fabric is quite stiff just from using those inks, cling film itself doesn't really add much stiffness to it. It's quite easy to go through, so yeah. So although you can see that kind of shadow around it, if you like, by the time I've stitched into that, you'll barely notice that at all. See here with this Pritt stick version, that's left a huge residue around it, which I don't like. I might try colouring over the top of that. If that doesn't work, I'll just cut this whole butterfly out now, just so as not to waste it, and do something else with it. The great thing is I cannot feel, if I run my fingers over that, I can't feel. It just feels slightly smoother over weather, because the advantage with this is you don't get that plasticky thing, but this glue is showing. I did try spritzing over the plastic just to make sure that didn't take it off or anything, and it doesn't. It does absolutely nothing, so that's great. Yeah, very, very pleased with these, with both these little techniques. This one definitely needs more work, and maybe it's not quite right for this particular project, but certainly good to know that you can just stick these things on with nothing more complicated than a glue stick. It just depends on what you're wanting to do with it, really. So I'm going to now stick the rest of these on. I'll probably arrange all of these butterflies along the sort of green part of this. I think they look so beautiful against that. And I'll make some little hearts and start stitching into them then. I've got my lovely colourful threads to use. So I'm going to stick a few more of these on now, and then cut out a couple of hearts, and I still like to do a bit of stitching to finish up this video. So I'll finish transferring the rest of these off camera now, and I'll be back. I've just popped back because I've had a bit more of an experiment with the glue stick. I didn't want to give up on that. This time I was just a bit more careful about where I put it, and I've applied this one with the glue stick, and it seems to be stuck down pretty firmly without loads of surplus around it. I did the same with the flowers here and here, and it is nice in that you haven't got that kind of plasticky shadow around them. So I'm going to do a few more of the butterflies like this. The flowers I've encased within the cling film already. So yeah, I've just been to say I want to put this one here where there's this little bit of purple, because I think that looks nice to bring the kind of purple and green together there. And I just kind of, I think this glue stick is actually a little bit dry, which isn't helping. I just kind of put a little bit down, carefully kind of burnish it a bit, then lift the next bit, and I'm just doing it like that. And it is surprising, like the lady in the video was saying, it is surprising how well that sticks. You don't expect it to. I'll put a link to her video in the description box. I think the other one, the one with the cling film, was just like a Facebook reel. It was a really short little film, but I'll put a link to the Pritt stick one. That is pretty good. I'll turn that over now and give it a really good. I'll go like that. I can see where there's any ends coming up, like a bit there. I'll pick that bit up. Just put a tiny touch more. You do have to be careful because the napkin is quite fragile. But yeah, that seems to work pretty well. So I'm going to carry on now, cover the whole of this fabric with butterflies and flowers, and then I'll be back. Here we go. I've finished applying all the images. Plenty of space in between so I can cut heart shapes out. I think I really like that bit there. I'm going to have a problem making myself cut into it. But I think I will make some lovely hearts. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut out some heart shapes, and then do a little bit of stitching with you to finish up the video. Okay, so it's the next morning. I'm sitting here with my first coffee of the day. Did a bit of stitching last night, and I'm over to Tom's in a bit, so I just wanted to try and finish up this video before I go. So I thought I'll let you know where I'm going, and maybe just got time to do a little bit of stitching. First of all, let's have a look at how these turned out. They've dried overnight. I'm really happy with this thread. I think that is gorgeous. So this was cheap white stranded cotton that I got from Amazon, like really cheap. Worked out about 30p a skein, I think.
It's meant to be 8 metres on a skein. I'm not convinced that is 8 metres, but very happy with that. This is how the other pieces dried up. As you can see, it just doesn't lose its intensity as it dries, this stuff. It's completely dry now, and it's just as vivid as it was when I put it on. I've still got a couple of these butterflies to put on. One with the cling film method and one with the glue stick method. I use this is a heat erasable pen. I use these just to draw the heart shape. See, now it's decided it's not going to work. The reason I'm mentioning that is that I thought, oh, a quick way to take all the to get rid of the white lines once I finish cutting out. I'd just finished taking things out of the oven for dinner, turned the oven off. I put these in on my pizza tray. I put these in the oven as it was cooling down, just for, I don't know, they're probably only in there for like 3 minutes. Completely took all of the white pen off, and I think helped to settle in the applied napkins. I think they went a bit more transparent after I did that than they were before. Don't know what you think. So just a little tip though, you don't want to set it off. I mean, it was the oven had been on 180. I turned it off and just left it cooling, so I suppose, yeah, it was probably still quite hot when I went in. Anyway, so these are the ones I cut. I really liked the look of these, sort of almost ethereal effect of these ones with the florals on and their sort of cloudy colours. This is the one that I stitched into. It's interesting, as I stitched it, the fabric went much more floppy. It lost that stiffness. So here's how I stitched. I just picked up the colours in the background, did little pairs of seed stitches. There's clusters of French knots there. I did that spiral as a whipped back stitch, more seed stitches up here, chain stitch around there. This was all whipped back stitch there, French knots, a little bit of pistol stitches in the middle there. Just stitching into the pattern that I've created with the colour and the napkin. So this was easy to stitch into, very easy to stitch into, not a problem at all. I'll do a little bit of stitching with you in a minute, just to show you. So those are the florally ones. I still love these, and with these I would just do kind of seed stitches around, I think. Again, picking up the colours that are in the background. This is one of the butterfly ones, so I did quite a lot of the butterfly ones obviously, and this is how, so that's the same butterfly, and that's how I stitched into it. So I'll do one of them. I think I'll show you how I did that one in a mo, because it won't take too long. Yeah, really happy how that turned out, and I quite like that because there's that slight sheen. Even though I've stitched all over it, you can still see the sheen. I quite like that. I think it makes someone look at it and think, how has she done that? What is that? Those two are napkin method. Those two are the clingfilm method. Those two are the glue stick method. I feel like this is not quite as well stuck. You can just see a slight little wrinkling there, but I think once I stitch over it, it will be more secure. It remains to be seen whether when I stitch into it, it holds up to that very well. But I'll let you know. Yeah, so I've got a few more of them to stitch, which I will do tonight, but I thought I'd just do one with you now. I did use my second best dressmaking scissors. You need scissors that will cut fabric, but I wouldn't advise using your best ones when you've stuck all this on. I think maybe with this one it would be quite fun just to stitch round and round with this variegated thread. Shall I do that with you as well? And I'm going to start by working a little kind of like a fly stitch into each one of these feathers. I say kind of like, because I always get confused between fly stitch and Y stitch. So I'll start the top of one of those feathers and come down. I think that will work. And then I'm going back up again. And you can see there's absolutely no problem putting no appreciable kind of resistance to the needle going into the fabric. Despite if the whole thing feels sort of quite stiff in my hand, it doesn't feel stiff to stitch through. There we go. Make my little fly stitch, and then I'll just follow that line down. Oops. Arm's length situation again. Let's just make sure I keep coming in at the right sort of angle. If I follow the lines that they've done there, it should be alright. Yeah, so you can see it kind of gives that effect of the sort of the veins in the in the wing, doesn't it? I think it does in my head. I love this thread to stitch with. It's quite nice to use something other than stranded for a change, and this is plenty thick enough to give a defined kind of look, I think. There we go. So I just did that on each of the wings. I'll go over and do the other side now, and then I'll be back in a sec. I go for some of this bright green, and I'm just going to pick out little straight lines in between the blue there. Go across and do that on the other side. And I also did a width chain stitch down here and then sort of blanket stitched over the top of it. Let's do that while I'm here. So I'll start there at the top of the head and do quite a small chain stitch following down the body. You can see it's quite pliable. One more. And I'm going to take the thread to the back, come up again at the other end and whip the stitch by just going underneath the stitch, not into the fabric, just around the stitch to thicken that up. And I almost thought that was enough, then I decided it wasn't, so I went over again with a blanket stitch, but really that probably is enough to indicate the body, really. So if I take that down now, I kind of feel, should it go a little bit longer? Now let's leave it there. That's where the design has it finishing. And then I'm going to go up here and do a couple of little pistol stitches this time for the antennae. One, come back down, two, and then I can use the rest of the thread to put these lines in on the wing again. Then I'll do the blue around there again, and I'll do some little straight pink lines as well. Okay, so to do the eyes I'm just going to do a French knot on either side. Quite a big chunky French knot, so I'll wrap this round 4 times I think. So let's now take the rest of this pink thread around the outside and stitch a little outline. I think just with a running stitch. Is that okay? Do the lower part of the wings, and I think I'll just do a couple of running stitches around to just outline the butterfly. That's what I've done there. And I also outlined the whole heart with, so that all the colours that I've used in all 3 colours that I've used in the butterfly are also in the background. So yeah, that's really all I did with that. You can see the difference where I've decided to lengthen the body a bit, and I then did a blanket stitch around that whipped chain stitch. So that worked quite well to give it more body, and comparing the two now, I think I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Let's put that to one side now and just try out some of this thread. So I'm going to start stitching into where that kind of ghost of the of the cling film is, because one of the reasons for doing this is to kind of, you know, disguise that really. Let's see how my homemade variegated thread works out. There's no sign of it lifting from the fabric at all, even where I've been stitching into it. Not at all. I'm not going to make you sit and watch me stitching in circles. I'm going to go around this, probably do 3 rows. I might do something like a reverse blanket stitch where the legs go kind of outwards. That would look quite cute. But for this, just to get this video finished before I go, I'm going to just stick to the straight stitches. So I'm going to carry on working around there. I'll be back in a sec. There we go, that's that one stitched around. I love how that variegated thread looks, and I might do another row of stitching around the inside as well, just to bring it all in, or even a line of chain stitching, perhaps something like that. Yeah, one last thing I wanted to try was using paint pens on this to add a little bit of extra detail. So I'm going to take one of these pieces, these extra pieces that I've got, just to add a small amount of detail, just a bit of extra kind of interest and texture really, and I'll just carry the colour out into the neighbouring area a little bit with each one. And the other thing I can do with this is where I've got just a very slightly muddy little area there that I don't enjoy, I can just lift that with this little bit of the bright yellow, because I like the yellow next to the purple. I like the way they pop because they're complementary colours, but I don't like them actually mixed together because they go muddy. A little bit of green here, so let's pick that up. And again, I like to see the green next to the pink, but not mixed. So don't know if I want the lighter purple, or let's just try it on here. Yeah, probably the lighter rather than the darker purple. There we go. I'm going to make myself a little thumbnail now. But yeah, there's a closer look at that. Oops, a closer look at that fabric. I really like that. If I saw that as a fabric to buy, I'd definitely buy it. And that's still, with the paint pen on as well, it's still perfectly flexible, perfectly easy to stitch into. And that acrylic paint ain't going to go anywhere. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to risk it going through the wash. It probably would be alright, but I mean, you're not going to be washing it if it's a slow stitch project, are you really? So yeah, very happy with that look. And you could definitely do other little shapes, little circles or whatever on there instead if you wanted. So let's see if we can make this look half decent. Very, very happy with those results. I really enjoyed that little experiment. I hope you enjoyed watching it as well. I'm not going to come up and say goodbye to the camera because I'm still in my PJs and I haven't even brushed my hair or anything yet, so I know I'm not usually known for being a glamour person, but there are limits. So thank you very much for joining me today. I do hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you again really soon.